I will tell you a story that was whispered among the people of a small town at the edge of the forest. Listen slowly, as if each word is a step on a creaking floor, and don't turn on the light if you're afraid the darkness might hear you. In that town stood a house that everyone avoided, not because it was particularly old or ugly, it just didn't fit in with the rows of tidy houses with white shutters. Its windows were always darkened, and on the porch grew a single dim lamp that sometimes flickered, as if someone inside was trying to call out to passers-by, but then fell silent. They said no one lived in that house, but sometimes, on windless nights, a faint sound, like a whisper, could be heard from under the door. People said it was the wind. I don't believe in wind that knows how to whisper. One late evening, a young teacher arrived in the town. He rented a room from an old woman on the corner and, as teachers do, loved to take walks after sunset to think about books and how to explain complex things to children in simple words. That night, he walked past the house with the dim lamp and stopped. He thought he saw a silhouette flash in the window. He leaned against the fence and listened. The whispering stopped. A pause hung in the air, so thick it felt like it could be cut with a knife. The teacher did not believe in ghosts. He believed in explanations. The creaking of old floorboards, mice in the walls, the reflection of a passing car. But that night, he felt the urge to check. He approached the door and knocked. Knocking was ridiculous. The house was considered empty, but the knock awakened something in him that defied logic, a curiosity that smelled of danger. The door opened by itself, without a sound, and in the doorway appeared a dark staircase, leading down into a basement. The air from inside was colder than outside and smelled of old paper and something else, something nameless. He descended. The stairs creaked, but not like old boards usually do. It was an even, almost musical sound, as if the steps were sighing. It was dark below, but in the depths of the room flickered a faint light, not a lamp, not a candle, but something that glowed from within, as if the house itself was emitting memory. The teacher saw a table with a stack of letters tied with a ribbon. The letters were yellowed, the handwriting on them neat and feminine. He took one and read. If you are reading this, it means you have come. Do not look out the window when the clock strikes midnight. The teacher smiled. The warning seemed theatrical, like something from an old book. He put the letter back and walked further. In the room stood an old wardrobe with a mirror. In the mirror, the room was reflected, but in the reflection, a photograph hung on the wall that wasn't in the actual room. In the photograph was that very house, only next to it stood a woman in a long dress, and at her feet sat a child. Their faces were blurred, as if the photo had been taken through rain. The teacher felt a chill run down his spine. He turned away and heard the quiet rustling of pages somewhere in the house, as if someone was leafing through a book. He didn't notice when the clock on the wall struck midnight. The sound of the chime was deep and even, and at that same moment, the room darkened, although the lamp in the hallway still flickered. The teacher remembered the letter and, unable to resist, approached the window. It was covered by thick curtains, but a weak light seeped through the crack. He pulled back the curtain and saw not the street, but another room, the very one reflected in the mirror. There, the woman in the long dress stood by the window, looking directly at him. Her eyes were empty, like to black holes, and in her arms was the very child from the photograph. The child turned its head and smiled the way children smile, who know secrets inaccessible to adults. The teacher recoiled and fell backward. In the room behind him, someone sighed softly. He turned around but saw no one. The air grew thick, and the words he heard were not sounds, but images. Footsteps in the corridor, whispers, laughter that began like a child's and gradually turned into something else. He tried to open the door, but it was locked. The key he held in his pocket did not fit. At that moment, he understood that the house was not empty. It held the memory of those who once lived here, and that memory did not wish to let go. The clock struck again, and a whisper appeared in the room, now sounding like a woman's voice. It spoke not in words, but in feelings. Don't leave. Stay. We have waited so long. The teacher felt his legs grow weak. as if the ground beneath them was dissolving. He remembered the old woman's stories about how the house took those who were too curious, but he couldn't believe it until he saw a shadow slowly emerge from the corner of the room. The shadow stretched, took shape, and became like a human silhouette. It was transparent, but there was something alive in it, as if someone's memory pulsed within it. The silhouette approached the table and picked up the bundle of letters. It opened one and read aloud. But the voice was not a voice, it was an echo. "We lived here, and we were loved. But one day, the cold came, and we forgot how to leave." The words were simple, but in them was a sadness that pulled you in. The teacher felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to help, to say that everything would be all right, but his lips wouldn't obey. The silhouette turned to him, and in its eyes flashed understanding, not anger, not malice, but a plea. The clock struck the third time, and the smell of fresh bread appeared in the room. It was so real that the teacher instinctively reached for the table. On the table, there indeed lay warm bread that hadn't been there a minute ago. He broke off a piece and felt warmth spread through his hands. At that moment, the woman in the long dress approached the window and, without looking away, smiled. Her face became less blurred, and gratitude could be read in it. The child in her arms fell asleep, and its breathing became even, like that of a sleeping infant. "Help us remember," whispered the voice, and into that whisper wove a childlike intonation. The teacher remembered how, as a child, his grandmother told stories that healed fears. He understood that the house's memory was not a curse, but a wound that could be healed with words. He sat down on a chair and began to read the letters aloud. At first, they were simple lines about the weather and bread, about how children grow and gardens bloom. With each phrase he read, the air grew lighter, and the shadows in the room became less dense. The words he spoke seemed to return the house to life, but not to the life where people live with bodies, but to the one where memories live. He kept reading. He read letters, diaries, old notes until he reached the last sheet. On it was written one sentence: "When the words return, we will be able to leave." He spoke these words aloud, and something happened in the room that cannot be described with ordinary words. The light grew softer, the shadows retreated, and the house seemed to sigh. The silhouette of the woman placed the child on the table and, without uttering a word, dissolved into the air. The letters scattered across the table like leaves, and in their rustling could be heard laughter, not evil, not frightening, but the kind of laughter that comes after a long sadness. The teacher left the house at dawn. On the porch lay the ribbon from the letters, and the wind played with it, as if wanting to return it. He looked at the house and saw that the lamp on the porch no longer flickered. It shone steadily and calmly, like a lantern lighting the way. People in the town noticed this and said that the house had finally stopped being scary. They said you could enter it now, that you could live there. But the teacher knew. The house had not become ordinary. It had simply stopped pulling in those who did not know how to listen. Many years passed. The teacher moved away, but sometimes, returning to the town, he would visit the old woman on the corner and ask about the house. She always smiled and said the same thing. Sometimes at night, you can hear a whisper, but it's no longer a call. It's gratitude. The teacher would smile in return, but deep down, he understood that gratitude is also a voice, and a voice can be deceptive. He knew that the house's memory was now free, but freedom is a fragile thing. One curious step, one careless word, and everything could return. And so, I will tell you one last thing. If you ever walk past a house with a dim lamp and hear a whisper, don't rush to cover your ears. Sometimes, a whisper asks not to lure you in, but for you to remember. But remember, not every memory wants to be heard. Some of them sleep deeply, and it's better to leave them be. If you still feel the urge to look in the window, do it carefully. Look not at the shadows, but at what they hide. And if the clock strikes midnight, count the chimes and do not speak aloud the words you do not understand. I will end here, because the night is already deep, and words are beginning to melt into the air. Close your eyes, but not too tightly. Let the darkness remain where it belongs, and memory where it is kept. And if suddenly just as you are about to fall asleep. It seems to you that someone softly whispered your name. Do not be too afraid. Perhaps it's just the wind. Perhaps it's gratitude. Perhaps it's an invitation. The choice is yours.